Join me as we take a deep dive into the shallow end of the lake to the Big Bertha mating grounds. Will the anglers in the Northwest be able to kick down the doors of the Taj Mahal, separate the mamas from the babies, and put them on the Tourney X leaderboard for the win? Join me as we find out. If you have any complaints for our department, reach out to this guy. He's the head of all complaints. He loves complaints. Give him a ring. The April-long online challenge known as the Bucketmouth Challenge is a challenge done in the Northwest. The states of Washington, Oregon, and Idaho all compete in the Bucketmouth Challenge, but they do it separately and as individual states. The challenge part of the Bucketmouth is only largemouth bass count towards your totals. Smallmouth and spotted bass will not count. We're going to start this off in Idaho for the IKBF Bucketmouth Challenge. The standings have changed a lot since we last updated this last week, which is only a couple days before the tournament actually started. Several submissions have changed, and the outcome is completely different from what it was a week ago. Rick Thanstrom would win the battle for third with 2 coals in the final days of the Bucketmouth Challenge, giving him a 19.25 inch and an 18.5 inch to the Tourney X leaderboard, which would add 4 3/4 inches total, giving him a total of 96.25 and a 3/4 inch lead over Ryan Flory. Rick was in 6th place going into this final days with 91.5 inches. At 4 3/4 inches brought his total up enough to put him in 3rd place. That's crazy. It's kind of amazing. It's kind of not amazing, but it's a big deal for sure. Rick Flory would end up finishing 4th with a total of 95.5 inches. His largest bass was 19 3/4. Pulling him out of the deep for sure. Now, the fight for first place was a battle for the entire month of April. Garrett Harrison had cleared the 100-inch mark, was sitting in a pretty safe spot on the Tourney X leaderboard going into the final days, but Brad Andrews wasn't having it, man. He wasn't going to just sit back and let Garrett take the win. In the final days, Brad Andrews submitted 2 giants, a 21 3/4 and a 20.5 inch stud for kickers, bringing his total to 101.5 inches and taking the lead and the win over Garrett Harrison. Submitting 2 giants in the end of a tournament does bring one question, though. Did Brad Andrews save his 2 biggest fish for the submissions on purpose? Was he holding out, or what people would call sandbagging? Is this a strategy you like? Hate? What do you think about it? We're going to cut to Hans for his opinion.
Hallo, ich heiße Hans. Ich komme aus Deutschland. Ich habe keine Idee, warum ich bin hier. Ich weiß es nicht über das Angeln. Ich weiß
Who hired
nicht.
this guy?
Ich habe einen Trouble gemacht.
You get a DUI in Germany, and now you have to get a job in America?
Ich habe keine Meinung.
DEI.
Ich bin hier für
Oh, he's the equal
ein Jahr.
opportunity guy.
Ich bin schwimmen mit die
Sweet.
Fische. Es geht nicht. Es geht nicht. Ich muss zu Hause
Thanks, Hans, for your opinion, I think.
Bitte.
Moving on to the OKBF. Jacob Jarvis, with a bold strategy of his own, laid all his cards out on the Tourney X leaderboard weeks before the final days of the event, daring his competitors to come at him. Jacob Jarvis would hold the top spot with a total of 107 inches. He would also catch the biggest bass of the tournament with a 22.5 inch behemoth. His smallest fish was 20 3/4 inches, which is still a giant fish. These numbers are higher than the level of mercury in the Willamette. This was a dominant performance. The race between 2nd and 3rd started heating up in the last week of the competition. Jason McClure went to the final week sitting in 3rd place, but was only 3/4 of an inch behind 2nd place angler David Solis. Jason McClure would find the coals he needed to take the 2nd place spot and finish with a total of 96.25 inches. David Solis would finish with a solid 94.5 inches, secured a spot in 3rd place. Some days you just can't find what you're looking for. WKBF Bucketmouth Challenge. Last year's WKBF Challenge Series Angler of the Year, J.R. Rollins, chose the same strategy and showing his cards ahead of time. All 5 of his fish were over the 21-inch mark, including the Tourney X big bass with a mudslinging unsalted ditch cucumber coming in at 22 3/4 inches. That is wild. 22 3/4 inches, man. You imagine that as a sandwich, dude. That's like 2 Subway sandwiches and probably $700. The defending AOI would win the event with an 8 3/4 inch lead and a total of 108 3/4 inches. Another insane number coming out of the Pacific Northwest. The battle for 2nd place would go all the way down to the final moments. Felipe Rippin' Lip Sanchez and Jordan Duggar had both submitted upgrades. But in the end, Mr. Sanchez reached the coveted century mark at 100 inches even, securing the 2nd place finish by only 3 inches. Jordan Duggar would finish in 3rd with a total of 97 inches, falling just short of the 100-inch mark. As a veteran of the sport, he'll be back. He's not even anywhere. His 3rd place is great. 3rd place in the points, anyway. Congratulations to all the winners. That's some absolute giant numbers to start off the season. Everyone's sitting in a good spot for the AOI standings. Last year's winners are still winning. This year's, it's going to be another blowdown, man. You're going to have to catch these guys for sure. Good luck going into the Pond Hopper Challenge for the month of May. The Pond hopper is a challenge where large mouth, smallmouth, and spotted bass count, but you can only fish on public waters of 200 acres or less. That's the challenge in that one. And that is a hard one for me. And that is it. Another episode of The Updates.